Legend of Total War here, and today we're got the future of Total War Warhammer 3 Thrones of Delay. No, I'm obviously paraphrasing that a bit. So Thrones of Decay update here. Some interesting stuff, not a whole lot, and I've got some additional information that's in relation to the previous video that I made, Sega is destroying CA, and in regard to leaks and stuff, which I'll get to that in a bit. So over here there's a bit of information about them saying thank you and that they got it wrong with Shadows of Change. This is all good stuff. You know, they're basically admitting their faults and trying to make amends for it, and this is all good. But the main thing that I want to talk about is this here, the new way that you can purchase content. Now, if you're interested in all three of the factions involved, Empire, Dwarfs, and Nurgle, and you just want everything, well then you can purchase it at $22.92. Now, I imagine that this rate here is the price of pre-order, which is usually 10 or 15% off, usually 10. So afterwards, it would be $25. I imagine they're going to put it in the same price line as Shadows of Change. So if you purchase that, and you'll get all three of them. Or if you're not interested in one or two of the factions, you can purchase a smaller pack for $8.99. And if you want to purchase a second one, then you'll get a 15% discount on that. So I think this is a great idea because not everybody plays every single faction. Surely the hardcore people that basically live, breathe, eat, sleep Total War Warhammer 3, they're just going to, as soon as the pre-order is available to drop, they're just going to immediately pop this down and then just wait the 3 weeks or whatever until it comes out. But I don't think that's the majority of people. I think that a lot of people have their favorite factions, and they basically just play that same faction over and over and over again. Especially Empire people, right? You know, how many of you guys are onto like your 20th Karl Franz campaign? Anyway, so for those people, you know, maybe you're not interested in Nurgle, you just purchase the Empire and Dwarf stuff, and that way you can save a little bit of money on something that you were never going to use anyway. And I think this is a great way to lower the barrier of entry, and I kind of hope that Creative Assembly, if this is successful, which I hope it is for them, I hope they go back and maybe do the same things with Shadows of Change retroactively. But of course, that opens up the possibility of refunds. Maybe some people are like, oh, I purchased Shadows of Change full price and I didn't friggin' want to play Zinch. I want a refund on that. So that could open up that kind of problem. So that might be something that they might want to avoid and just be like, Shadows of Change, we've done all that we can with that. Let's just move forward. I understand one way or another. But yeah, I got no problem with these like bigger DLC, which is not really a bigger DLC. It's about the same amount of content, maybe a little bit more now, than what we're getting in Warhammer 2. But anyway, I got no problem with premium DLC if they do it this way. I think this is sort of a good compromise. But as always, it's important that the content match the price. Because don't forget that $9 used to be the price for 2 Legendary Lords. But of course, we have to take inflation and costs are up into consideration, and we have to give ground at some point. We can't just be like, no, it should be $1 for everything. You know, you'll just never gain any ground at that sort of attitude. This sort of constantly making things better requires give and take from both sides, both from Creative Assembly and from the community. We have to accept that some things are going to be a little bit more expensive, and Creative Assembly needs to up their game a little bit as well. So we both work together and make compromise, and that's how we work as a community. That's how things work. You can't just have it be uncompromising. That doesn't work. Anyway, so this is all good. I have no problem with this. Curious to know your thoughts on it as well. We don't have any actual information about what's involved in Shadows of Change, Thrones of Decay at this stage here, but leaks, I've had a few. So I'll tell you what I've been told so far about Thrones of Decay. Take it with a pinch of salt. We'll find out in the next day or so, or next week anyway. So what I've been told: Legendary Lord for Nurgle is Tamrakhan. The FLC Legendary Lord is Epidemius. As for the Legendary Heroes, I don't know. The Legendary Lord for the Empire is Elspeth von Draken. I've heard nothing about Boris Todbringer. Some people have said that they might think it is, but none of my leaks, which I mostly trust, have said nothing about Boris Todbringer, and that kind of does make sense, but we'll see, I guess. I could see him one day becoming a Legendary Lord. I just don't know if it's going to happen now. And as for the Dwarf stuff, I've heard nothing, so I got nothing to report on that. And if I'm not going to just make up shit. If I get reported some information, even if it ends up being false, I'll report it to you. Take it with a pinch of salt, you know. Be a little bit critical about it. But if I actually don't get information, then I'm not going to just make up crap. All right, so I've also got other bits of information that may need to be a bit corrected. So we'll stay on topic with Warhammer 3 first. So I previously said that Warhammer 3 was, instead of getting like 10 or 15 DLCs, it's looking like maybe 4 or 6 DLCs. And basically in the previous video, I encouraged past and present Creative Assembly employees to get in touch and correct me if I'm wrong about any of this stuff, and that of course I'll keep you anonymous. I've had more people reach out to me with this stuff, so I've got more sources now than before. Now the way that I try to do this is that I check all my sources for bits of information and ask them all the same questions, and these sources don't talk to each other, right? At least as far as I'm aware. And when they have the exact same answer to the same question consistently, then I go, all right, that's a leak, because that all makes sense. But when I get different answers to the same question, then I go, okay, I gotta figure out what's going on here, because it doesn't really make sense. Now, when it came to the historical Total War game, that's basically what I was getting. I was getting different answers to the same questions. Some people were saying it's Empire 2. Some people were saying it was 19th century. Some people were saying it was World War 1, and some were saying it's a combination of them all. And it was very confusing, and I reported on it because people want to know my thoughts on it. But I've got some more information on that, and it does seem as though the next historical Total War game is just flat out World War 1. That's the next time setting. It's not Empire 2, it's supposed to be World War 1 trench warfare sort of thing. Until I get a bit more information, that's all I've got. And also that it is significantly delayed, because it is just not ready. It was originally slated for 2024, but it's been delayed, which I think is a good thing, that they're not pushing out another Rome 2, a game that was clearly not ready for release. Get it right and then release it. And I'm ready to support it when the time comes. I don't care what the time setting is. I know some of you guys will be like, oh, I don't want to see World War 1, and that is fair enough. And then some of you will probably be excited for World War 1. And I don't care about the setting, so I just hope it's good. That's all I hope, is that we don't get any more Rome 2 launches. I'm sick of Rome 2 launches, and what I mean by a Rome 2 launch is bad launches that basically hurt the long-term viability of the game, in my opinion. Anyway, so back to Warhammer, about the 4 or 5 DLCs remaining after Thrones of Decay. It's not all doom and gloom. So based on the conversations that I've been having with certain people, it does seem like this is pretty accurate information, because the details that I've been getting about what the DLCs are, not just that there are 4 DLCs, but specifically what these DLCs are going to be about, has been consistent. So I know basically what the next DLC is after Thrones of Decay, and I've decided not to tell you at this stage here, out of respect to Creative Assembly. For now, if they piss me off, I'll just tell you what it is. So we'll see how we go. But as a little bit of a, all right, I won't reveal this leak just yet. I'll keep this one to myself, what the next DLC is. But basically, all of my sources are basically saying it's this, okay? And also the last DLC, the last one, it's all confirmed to be, this, and I'm not going to reveal what it is at this stage here, but the last DLC, which again, it'll be a bit of a bittersweet moment, because it'll basically signal the end of Total War Warhammer 3, or just a Total War Warhammer project, something that's been going on for, 8 years now, and will probably be a decade by the time it finishes. It is something to be excited about, this particular DLC, but it'll also signal the end times. Anyway, so the Warhammer 3, I don't think it's something that we need to be doom and gloom about, because from what I've been speaking to people is that they're basically finished. All the stuff that Games Workshop is allowing them to make, they've made. And that the only way that they could possibly justify making more content for Total War Warhammer 3 is if basically sale prices basically more than double, sort of thing, just go up through the roof. And that seems unlikely due to just franchise fatigue. People are getting a bit fatigued with Total War Warhammer, understandably so. I mean, I'm starting to feel that as well. And if sales were to go up, because apparently it's no longer as profitable as it was before, apparently, then they would consider making some more content for it. But that being said, there is an end date. It may be 4 DLCs. They may sneak another one in there if things are going well. But at some point in the next 2 to 3 years, Total War Warhammer 3 is going to come to an end. But the end of Warhammer 3 sparks the beginning of something new. At the very end of Warhammer 3, what we should be seeing is the beginning of 40k. All of my sources consistently report 40k is coming. It's not something where it's like, oh, one person is saying 40k isn't coming, another person is. Every single one says 40k is coming, and it's coming sooner rather than later. It may even be the next Total War game. Don't expect it in 2024, and don't even expect it in 2025. We may not get another Total War game for that long. Yearly releases for Creative Assembly right now is sort of not something that should be guaranteed. It's more of a case of they just need to support what they've currently got active and really polish what's in the works, what's coming soon. And that being the historical Total War game, World War One, which is apparently, from what I've heard, this is all a bit iffy, this one, that the World War One game is not as ready as 40k, basically. But basically, when Fantasy ends, a lot of the workforce will go over to Warhammer 40k, and I know that some of you guys are probably not really that keen on 40k, but, you know, it's 40k's time, it's coming, and that's probably going to last about a decade. From what I've heard as well, I don't have heaps of information on this, but as for the starting factions, Orcs, Chaos, and Space Marines. That's all I know so far about 40k. As for how the game will actually functions, I don't know. And again, take all of this with a pinch of salt, because things can change. Creative Assembly might do some blunder, and another 50% of their staff will get fired, and the scope may be reduced or maybe pushed forward. Who knows? It's really hard to predict what things are going to happen in the future. All we can do is talk about what the plan is right now. But since I've got all these sources, I'll continue to keep you guys updated. So if things change, I'll try to give you some updated information. Things will get a bit clearer the closer we get to it. So that's the information that I've got at the moment. I don't think any of this stuff is particularly bad news. I think it's all actually kind of interesting, and that what I think we're going to have is a fair few years of Creative Assembly doing, at least trying to do a good job and not really trying to do these cash grabs. Now, from what I've heard about the past few years is that management was basically just asleep at the wheel, and that apparently a lot of management has actually been removed at Creative Assembly, which, like these ones that made these bad decisions, which I am grateful for, because I don't think you can make a blunder of that magnitude and just not have ramifications. Heads have got to roll, because that's a ridiculous amount of money wasted, and that certain productions, which may have ended up being quite good, are never going to see the light of day now, which also means that work that people have spent a lot of time on will never see the light of day, and they can't put it on their resume so they can, because then they're fucking fired, you try to get a job elsewhere. So a lot of people have wasted time because of these idiots in upper and middle management. So I'm glad to hear that some heads are definitely rolling. Whether or not all the heads that have rolled that needed to, hard to say. Anyway, that's the end of this one here. I'll leave a link to this in the description. Let me know in the comments below what you think. As for leaks, can't stress this enough. Don't take it as gospel. Don't be like going to the Reddit and saying, Legend of Total War said this, therefore it's definitely gonna happen. This is tinfoil hat shit, okay? It fucking doesn't matter at all, because we don't know for certain until Creative Assembly actually releases the name and the content of what it's actually gonna be, okay? So, don't invest too much into these leaks. It's just simply, this is interesting to talk about, and that's about it, Don't use it to predict the stock exchange of Sega Sammy, okay? Don't use it as a way to revolve around your life. It's just pointless information. That I hope you are entertained by it. Anyway, that's the end of this one. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below what you think, and we'll see you next time. Later, guys.